What's up, good people? I hope everybody is having a great start to their week so far. I just wanted to come on here and talk to you guys and express my thoughts and views on this parade that Donald Trump and his regime conducted a couple of days ago. And as well, I want to just say, you know, I've had a few people, they didn't say anything too negative, but it's just more so supporting Donald Trump and stating that Donald Trump is going to be president again in 2028 and MAGA this. And I get it to the extent that in life, people are going to follow who they want to follow, but not only that, they're going to follow people that have the same views and the same idealistic thoughts or whatever may have you. But people follow like people, people that they have similarities to. And no matter how bad of a person someone is, they can still find people that are willing to follow them and believe in the lies that they tell. And I say all that because that's exactly what's going on with the handful of people that actually still believe in what this so-called president is doing and what this guy claims to be about. But aside from that, this parade or whatever have you that they had, like I said a couple of days ago, it was supposed to be a parade to celebrate the Army's birthday, so to speak. But also, it was in conjunction with Donald Trump's birthday. And in all honesty, this parade was done more so for him in opposed for the military and for the men and women of the United States that support the military. He did this for himself because everyone who has any common sense knows that this guy is a very selfish person, and it's all about him and what he wants. But I highly recommend for the ones that didn't watch that parade or the ones that didn't pay close attention to that parade and was because some people may have watched it and was just caught up in the moment or whatever it may be, in opposed to actually looking at that parade. And I say that because look at the men, and I didn't know if there was any women, but normally it's men and women of the military that were marching. And they weren't marching. They were casually, in a sense, strolling down the streets of Washington, D.C. I don't know how much forewarning the military had been given in order to prepare for this parade, and which I would think that they had been given ample amount of time because they had to transport in all of the military equipment that was showcased in that parade as well. But that parade made our military, or the military of the United States, appear to be a weak, dysfunctional system. And once again, look at that parade and compare that parade to other countries that have military parades. Because at this point, we might as well compare what was done a couple of days ago to what's being done in places like North Korea, places like China, places like Russia. We have to compare now because it was done, and it was done to try to showcase the power that the American military is supposedly supposed to possess. But once again, those men and women, I don't know if they were just told, hey, just walk, don't march. We don't need any type of formation, or we don't need anyone leading this us down this street. Because literally they weren't in step. They weren't in stride with one another. You know, they weren't just all over the place either, but they were not in stride with one another, in which that is normally what you see when you see a military marching. The left leg go up at the same time with everybody, and it goes down at the same time, and the right leg goes up, and vice versa. You get what I'm saying? And that was not being done. And it made the American military look sloppy. And I guarantee you that many of those men and women don't agree with this so-called president. And not only that, they more than likely didn't want to be there in the first place. But because they are active military men and women, they have no other choice to be there unless they want to, get in some type of trouble or be reprimanded by the military for not being there. And it was all in their faces. It was all in their demeanor that they didn't want to be there. And then not only that, you hear the people around this so-called president lying, because that's what dictators do. They lie. They try to take over media networks. They try to control the information that is given to the people so that they can put out the information that they want to have put out, and hold back the truth and the reality of everything that's going on in their country. And that's what Donald J. Trump is attempting to try and do. But once again, I do not believe that he will ever be fully successful in doing what he's trying to do. But I say all that because when they spoke about this parade and this birthday celebration, the hundreds of thousands of people showed up, and this was such a success. Once again, they're feeding the citizens a bunch of lies, because many of us were not there. So all we can do is go off of what's being told to us, and it's being told that it was successful and that there were 100 to 200,000 people that came to the parade. But when you look at a lot of the photos and things that are being taken and the videos that are being taken, there is nowhere near 200,000 people attending this get together, this gathering that he had. And especially at his little birthday celebration, there weren't many people there. There were more people protesting everything that this guy's doing, in opposed to the people that actually came to support what he is doing. And I'm not saying that the military didn't deserve a celebration, because a lot of men and women have given up their lives in order to protect this country and not just this country, but to protect the people of this country. So they deserved a celebration, but they deserved a celebration of respect. And what I saw looked like a complete disrespect of the United States military men and women. And Donald J. Trump and the people around him should be embarrassed and ashamed for lying, and also throwing this have you know what celebration, because that's what it was. It was a lackluster celebration. And so I just want to come on here, y'all, and say that my little piece about that, because many of us were more than likely expecting to see a show of power and a show of togetherness, because when you march in synchronization, that shows that the military moves and works as one unit. And what we saw yesterday were however many military personnel, basically being themselves in a sense. They didn't even look like they had, the uniforms just didn't look right. The whole thing just looked lackluster, y'all. But I highly recommend for you, the people that didn't actually see that, to go back and just watch that parade. And try not to watch it, where, what's that, Fox News? Try not to watch it from their perspective, because literally these people are to the point where they're manipulating videos and photos to make things appear as if it's something that it is not. And so I say, just do your due diligence, and I'll try and see if I can find some clips or something, and not just people who are against what this so-called president is doing videos, but just some videos so that we can see the truth. But most definitely, I saw that the military did not look like they were prepared, and they looked as if they didn't want to be there, and they most definitely did not appear to be moving as a unit of one, or one unit, But I hope everybody has a great rest of their week, and I hope and pray that things change, and that, if Donald Trump is allowed to go this full term, that he just doesn't destroy this country. But I said it before, and I'll say it again, I do not believe that he will go the full 4 years of this last term. And I'm not saying something bad is going to happen to him. I'm just saying that he's going to keep breaking laws and trying to do what he wants to do, and he's going to end up being impeached and put out of office. And we all know that the ones that fight tooth and nail for this guy, once this occurs, that we're going to truly have to get the military involved, because it's going to be a national emergency, because he created a national emergency the last time that he lost the election and did not want to concede the office peacefully like he should have. And we saw what happened. But next time, this country is going to be prepared for those knuckleheads and those half-minded, low-information people, so that for one, we don't lose any more police officers, and two, to where the government officials don't feel like their lives are on the line, even though we all know that these people have to constantly have their head on a swivel, because there are people out here that want to hurt congressmen and congresswomen because they don't agree with that congressman or that congresswoman. But personally, anybody with any common sense should know that violence is not the answer. That God in prayer is going to be the start, and then, like many of the people that came before me, and when I say the people that came before me, I mean the black men and women that peacefully fought for the freedom that I now enjoy today and that many of us enjoy today. And it wasn't just, don't get me wrong, black men and women. There were also white men and women that marched alongside the black men and women. But it was all done peacefully. They didn't go in with guns blazing. And look how far we were propelled because of how they went about their protests. And people like to say you have to fight fire with fire, in which that's not always the answer or the solution to a problem, in which logic will always override lack of knowledge, logical thinking. And I'm gonna get off of here, but I just want to give you guys an example, and it's a personal example in a situation that I was in. So I was driving one day, and there was a lot of traffic, and I'm doing the speed limit. I'm not, going 10 miles below the speed limit to upset anyone. I'm doing the speed limit. But apparently the person behind me was in a rush. And so I'm looking in my rearview mirror and I see him throwing his hands up and gesturing and all these other things. And so when he got the opportunity to go around me, he did so. But in going around me, literally, he had to come to a stop because there was a line of traffic in front of us. And so I just pulled right up behind him, and he's still, throwing his hands up in his car. And so I threw mine up because I've always been a person that responded to others. That's just how I was raised that way. Win, lose, or draw, I was taught not to back down in life. But anyways, so at that point, I see him taking his seatbelt off and looking like he was about to open his door. So I took my seatbelt off as well, and I let my window down. And so he lets his window down, and he yells out the window, "You don't know how to drive," or something he said to me. I said, "Look, man, you're doing all that speeding only to get in front of me, and now look where you are. You are stopped behind a line of traffic." And I told it to him just like that. And he looked at the cars in front of himself, and he got back in his car, and he didn't say anything else. And I say all that because I could have responded with, "Who you think you're talking to?" But I responded with a logical answer. And he he couldn't say anything else because I laid the facts out on the table, and all he could do was be like, "Dang, I am stopped doing all of that speeding for no reason at all." But I say all that, y'all, because we need to start analyzing situations in life before we react. Because many of us have been taught to react to situations, especially negative situations, with a negative response, with a response of who you think you're talking to. "I'll do this to you. I'll do that to you." And that's why we have so many people being shot and killed, so much fighting, because people don't know how to just look at things in a reasonable way or from a reasonable perspective and make a logical decision about the situation. And I say all that, y'all, because we need to think, and we can't have or let other people think for us. We can let people help us make rational decisions, but in the end, you are still the one, and I am still the one that has to make the decision for myself, and you have to make the decision for yourself. But we need to start thinking before we react, man, and that's just the problem. And as I've gotten older, I'm learning more and more to have patience. Patience with others and have patience with myself. And I've always said this, that whatever we do in life, it starts with us. Whatever I do in life, it starts with me first. So I have to love myself. I have to be patient with myself in order to be able to love others, in order to be patient with others. And everything in life we have to work at. We have to work hard at it. You understand? Athletes have to work hard in order to be successful. In any profession, not just athletics, but any profession, you have to work hard and you have to want to be the best at what you do in order to be successful. And I know I kind of went off the subject, but at the same time, we have someone in the White House and that's leading this country that does not think logically, and he's only thinking about himself. And one more thing before I go, literally this dude is getting rich off of the position that he's in which that's also illegal. That cryptocurrency, these deals that he is making with these Middle Eastern countries, they're not for the betterment of the United States. It's to make his family richer. That cryptocurrency is not going into the United States Treasury, the millions of dollars that this guy has made. He has been promoting gear, hats and shirts and all kinds of clothing. I mean, what kind of president literally does this country have right now? But I want to say that he also is now launching his own phone company or phone service, which is, but once again, y'all, anybody with two eyes, and you only have to have eyes, anybody who is just willing to listen to the things that he says could have and did see everything that this guy is doing and attempting to do, saw that this was going to happen. But hey, man, like I said, y'all take it easy out there.